What's up, y'all? I'm Jamila, and we're here with The Root at Essence Festival, and today I'm talking to Representative Justin J. Pearson. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Jamila. Thanks so much for doing this with me.
Absolutely. So, as you know, we've had several people, they've estimated around 90 million based off of the eligible voters that did not vote in the election 2024. What is something that you can tell the voters, those people that have not voted, to encourage them to vote for that next election?
Yeah, I mean, first, I understand why people didn't vote. Too often, Democrats and Republicans look similar to folks. They take corporate PAC money, they support genocide, and all these sorts of things. We have to make sure that what we are offering is different. And what I tell them is, you find candidates who believe in the same values that you believe in. Let's increase the minimum wage to $25. Let's expand universal access to health care. Let's stop these data centers from being built in our communities, especially black and brown communities, where we know they continue to be built for billionaires to make more profit and gain off of literally our lives with their pollution. And so I think you find candidates who you believe in and who you support, and go campaign for them, volunteer for them, go knock doors for them, go vote for them, because elections do have consequences. And the fact that gas is so high, endless wars are happening, white supremacy and the neo-Confederacy is rising, has a lot to do with elections. And it has a disproportionate impact on people who've already been historically disinvested in.
You brought up a good point. So I want to ask you, because I think there's a lot of division over on the quote unquote left side of the aisle, specifically with bridging the gap between people who claim to be liberals and leftists. So, what can you say to the Democratic Party to start bringing in more of those left leaning ideologies so they can stop alienating their voters?
Absolutely. We want principled, pragmatic, progressive people in politics. And too often we've gotten people who don't have or share our values of taking on the CEOs and the corporations, taking on the billionaires, right? Like, we need people in politics who are going to fight for our vision and fight for our values. And so, I mean, I see people trying to soak and stoke these divisions. But the truth of the matter is, Democrats have to have a big enough tent for everybody. And again, if our ability to have people like Senator Joe Manchin out of West Virginia, who pushed through a multi-billion-dollar pipeline on behalf of private companies, if he gets to claim being a Democrat, then certainly Malat and Claire Valdez and Dario Lisa get to claim being Democrats as well. But what we need are people with vision. That's what folks are responding to. Like, these elections aren't being stolen, they're being won off of ideas that push the party and ultimately will push this country forward. And we need to invest in those ideas, not be scared of them or afraid of them.
Okay. And my last question, for the people out there who feel like politics is very intimidating, it's a lot of things that you should know, but it's like, okay, I don't know where to begin. What are three main issues happening right now in this administration that you think people should be paying attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, let me just say a couple things. Make politics more local. Put it into your hand, right? Like, you can Google some of this stuff. Like, who is my state representative if I live X, Y, or Z?
Yeah.
Right? Just learn some of these things. Who's your city councilor? Who's your mayor? Because a lot of time we focus a lot on DC, and I'm running for Congress, and I get it, right? Like, there's a lot of focus on DC, but your state house, your state senate, your city council, your county commission, your mayor, your sheriff, your judges, those are having way more impact on your life than the president of the United States or U.S. House members or U.S. Senate members. So first, just learn those people. I think some of the things that the administration is doing that's really harmful. We've got this war going on in Iran, costing us $1 billion a day, and we don't have money for our schools.
$1 billion a day.
A billion, would it be? $1 billion a day. But we don't got money for schools or potholes to be filled in our communities. Second thing, we've got a need for a reform in our health care, and we need Medicare for all, because you've got private industries and corporations profiting off of people's need for health care. And so that's another thing that's crippling our communities. And the last thing that I think this administration is doing is the corruption. These people are making billions of dollars. Trump just made $2.2 billion since he's been in office, while people in our cities and our states in this country haven't gotten a raise. Federal minimum wage is still $7.25. $7.25. Who choose to live off that? Choose to live off
You
of that.
can't.
You can't. Even if you're making $10, $13, it's not enough.
We're going to have to bump it to 20 minutes.
20. I need 25 minimum.
Okay.
I
now
need
we're
25
talking.
minimum, because it isn't fair that you can have CEOs making 900 times their median employee and average everyday people struggling. That's just not fair in the richest country in the world.
Well, you heard it here first, y'all. I mean, straight from the horse's mouth. We are here at the Essence Festival, where black folks and culture meets in New Orleans. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Jamila.
Absolutely. What's up, y'all? It's Jamila, and I'm with The Root today. We are at the Essence Festival, honey, and today we have Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing great. So we're going to get into some things, The landscape we're in is a little bit treacherous, to
That's
say the
putting it
least.
lightly. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the Democratic Party. How would you say the Democrats need to bring unity? I feel like there's a lot of division within our party specifically, and especially with the left-leaning politicians as well as the left-leaning voters. How can we pull them in so that they can feel like they're a part and not alienated by the party?
Yeah, so typically parties come together, they come up with a platform, and the parties say, these are our priorities. And right now, what you see is that people do not have shared priorities. Black people are saying, are y'all going to say anything about our representation that is being deleted, like in a very sinister and calculated way? And they're saying, well, we're concerned about other things other than that, other than black maternal mortality, other than black women losing their jobs at the fastest rate, even though they are the most educated demographic. And so what you see is that black people are consistently being ignored, or I feel like that's what I hear. But when we look at the numbers, if there's any group of people that the party should be most loyal to and most vocal about, is black people, because black people have historically held this down. Now, we don't have the numbers in this country for sure, but percentage wise, there is only one group of people. When you walk into a room full of black people, you can almost guarantee that they believe in the democratic ideals. When you walk into a room full of white people, you don't know what you're walking into. Okay. Sure. So I think that we have to come to a consensus about a baseline of, when we're talking about the LGBTQIA community, we all gonna stand with the community as a whole, and maybe even have something specific that's like that one big thing that like nobody can fold on. Same thing with black folks, same thing with Latinos, same thing with women, same thing with all of the different kind of fractions within our umbrella. We have to say, as a baseline, we will not accept anybody that does not stand for these very basic things. And frankly, for black folk, it's just honestly acknowledging our humanity.
As simple as that, honestly. So when I looked at the numbers for the 2024 election, based off of the people who were eligible, it said about 90 million people didn't vote. And so what is something that you could say as a politician to those voters to make them feel like this is something that's important? Because I think a lot of people feel like a sense of like, what happens? Like, we got Trump here again, we got this. It's like, it's frustrating. It seems like, what can my little vote do? What is something that you can tell them to really encourage them to get out there for all the other elections coming up?
So here's my deal. And I'm glad that you pointed out the number. Let me point out the other two numbers, because there's only three major numbers that really matter about the election. It's the number of people that voted for the Democrats, the number of people that voted for the Republicans, and then the number of people that did not vote. And so you had a little over 70 million that voted for the Democrat and voted for the Republican, but you had more people sit out than voted for either one. And that tells you that the vast majority, or a good portion of Americans, don't feel as if they have a place within either party. And I will tell you that I do believe my superpower is in talking to people that historically have been disengaged. And people need to understand that there are certain people that say, it doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican, my life has never changed. And if we don't get to the point that we start to get to the real people, instead of just talking at people or about people, or to them, but actually starting to feel them and meeting them where they are. You have people that literally are saying, I don't know how I'm going to eat. So they're looking at people and they're like, you would never even talk to me. You would never even, like, you don't know my struggle because you've not come down to my level and had a real conversation. I will tell you, though, that the onus is on everybody. It is on the politicians as well as individuals to get engaged, because we work for the people. And the only way that we can know what it is that we need to do is if people decide that they want to engage us. You talk about the left. The left has decided that and granted, I mean, I'm a progressive. I started the Progressive Caucus, all the things. But I know what you're saying when you're talking about the left. You're talking about the white leftists that are doing the most in this moment. I'm going to be honest. I know who you're talking about. But what they've decided is, this is going to be my one issue. And I am going to put it in everybody's face, whether they want it or not or whatever. And the people who need government to actually function the most, I need them to like be vocal. And a lot of the things that don't get met are because their voices literally are not a part of the conversation. And that's something that I want to change. And we change that by them showing up. You just show up, not just to vote. If you've got some extra time, go down to city council and find out what this police chief is doing and whether or not your council needs to fire the police chief because there's been too many black folk that have been subjected to an over policing in my community, right? Or not police in my community. You know what I'm saying? Same thing when it comes to the state level of government, like whether or not a woman even has control over her body. I need you, if you can, to go to the state capitol and make your voices heard when they decide that no, it's okay to let you bleed out on a table. You need to be speaking up before you're on that table potentially bleeding out. And you know, most people don't get to come to the federal level because then you got to go all the way to DC. But if you can come to DC, it is the people's house. That is what the house is. It is for us to hear your stories. And when people come and talk to me, I'm like, I'm happy to see y'all. But please tell me you've got Republicans on your list because they need to realize when they're looking at something, they just think it's a line item to get rid of your health care or a line item to get rid of research for diabetes or cancer or whatever it is. I need you to tell your story. I need you to talk about the fact that, like, literally you may die because you never considered them as an individual. They were a line item. That is what government is supposed to be about. It is supposed to be accessible to everyone. Final point I'll make is that some of the most impactful voters that I've had have been unhoused people. And, you know, it has been the simplest things that I didn't even realize, just recognizing their humanity, that made them want to show up and vote for me. So when it comes down to it, if you're somebody that gets out in the streets and you rally other people, don't sit there and judge and say, well, that looks like a voter or this person doesn't look like a voter. Because so long as you are a U.S. citizen, and depending on how funny the laws get in different places, everyone is a voter. And you can't take this attitude of, well, I don't do politics, because as my good soror Tony Rose says down in Texas, but politics will do you. Everything in our lives, from the cost of food, the cost of gas, whether or not jobs are available, the cost of housing, healthcare, education, the roads, everything is a political decision.
Definitely, definitely. So my last question, I know a lot of people, especially those who don't typically turn out to vote, they feel a sense of overwhelming, right? It's very overwhelming, especially in such a crazy time. There's so much information. There's so many things going on. It's kind of like, well, I don't know what to pay attention to, so I'm not going to pay attention at all. So what are 3 things that you would say that are happening right now, 3 issues happening right now in this administration that you think people really need to pay attention to? I know it's hard to limit it to 3, but what are your 3?
Oh my God. I don't really know. You know, for me, the war is a really big one for me. I know people aren't talking about it as much anymore. But I take it very seriously that when you're a member of Congress, we are the ones that send off letters to try to get people into the various academies, the Naval Academy, Army, all of that, right? And so I've got these kids, and they come through my office, and they want to serve our country. And to have a commander-in-chief that really recognizes that they're not just some kind of little pawns in a game, but realizes that these are people that believe in everything that America is supposed to be, and they're risking their lives, and there's a madman that's like in the White House, like, that scares me. And with this war was not legally brought about. You know, it takes Congress. And so understanding that it's supposed to be bigger than one person being able to say, well, we gonna go to war here, boom, and y'all out, like, that is very dangerous. And the precedent that's being set is a precedent that, in my opinion, was already set by the Supreme Court when it started to kind of loosen the reins and say, basically, he can do whatever he wants to. I think that it is something that we have to pay attention to and be concerned about, because I imagine most of us know someone that we love that has served or is serving. And in addition to that, let's say you don't care about service members. You know, if you look at your gas prices, they went up because of this unauthorized war. These are the kind of things that a deliberative body is going to look at. And so it's just the level of unpredictability over our actual lives that's problematic. Another thing, I'm going with things that most people really haven't like thought about in these ways.
No,
Sorry.
that's what we need. That's what we need.
But I was very concerned with Doge when Elon came in. I actually serve on the Doge subcommittee, and when they decided to cut off USAID, not enough people care, and I think it's a really big deal. USAID, you know, they talk about what they do is they give you like the raw numbers. They be like, oh, well, they sent, you know, $100 million over to such and such. And people are like, that's money we could have had in our community. And I don't disagree, but what they're doing is they're trying to pit people against one another and have this scarcity mindset instead of understanding that we got enough to do both things, right? We should be sending money to your communities and we can send this money over here. And when I look at things like the hantavirus, when I look at Ebola that is now back, when I think about how many people lost their lives during COVID, I think about how at some point in time, I think that there's going to be a real big reckoning with the fact that we cut off USAID. USAID was a way for us to flex soft power. So basically, it's just goodwill, right? Like, it's like when people think about America, we want them to have good thoughts. And so they think about, you know what, we couldn't afford that insulin shot, but we got it because of the United States, right? And that tempers down people wanting to do things like fly planes into the towers. So, like, I believe in soft power, and the amount of money we were spending on USAID was literally less than 1%. It's even less than that of our entire budget, right? So when people start to give you big numbers that are bigger than our bank account, it's important for you to be like, all right, so in the grand scheme of things, like, what does that look like? What percentage is that? But I do think that in the long run, it is going to hurt us. We know that people have died because literally that funding was just randomly cut off. But it also allowed us to know what types of diseases were coming about in us to actually be working on it before it got to us. So I'm really concerned about USAID. And then the final one, God, this is so hard. You know, the Supreme Court is a big deal. So I'm gonna have to do that because I'm a lawyer. You know, obviously Trump is corrupt and he's lining his pockets and doing all the things and he's stealing us and he's just stealing us. He's robbing us blind for sure. But the court, I am concerned. I've been concerned, and I honestly don't think that we're going to be able to fix it. You know, I don't think people like Democrats are too reactive. I've been screaming about the courts for a long time. But Democrats are just now, once they started giving out these terrible decisions, they're like, well, what about the court? I'm like, yeah, it's kind of late now, you know? And what's going to happen is he's not going to risk two of those old fuckers dying. So he's going to have them step down. And then just like he had one step down last time, he's not going to risk the Senate possibly going to Democrats. Before these midterms are over, he's going to put two people like Amy Coney Barrett, who's super young, with a lifetime appointment. So the question is, like, you know, how aggressive will Democrats be? I serve on the Supreme Court task force. This is work I've been doing. We've had 3 bills that we've been trying to push out. You know, we have to have Democrats that want to be half as courageous as they are cruel. And then we will start to see some real wins for the American people.
That's real. That's real, child, because they can find money for all the other stuff, but they can't find money for us. I think that's a coincidence. Well, thank you guys so much again. I'm Jamila, and we're here with The Root and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett at Essence Festival. See you guys next time.